Hi, welcome back. Guys, Arknights Endfield listened to only 90% of our feedback. They didn't listen to the Doom posters, they didn't change the gacha system that proper players are not complaining about, and Endfield is gonna EOS despite projecting more than $300 million in revenue. They're obviously in desperation mode. Jokes aside, with that intro you can probably deduce that I'm pretty done with all the Doom posting that's been going on about this game by certain communities, and while I'm not here to address any Doom posting, I do want to talk about what Endfield and Hypergriff are doing and the entire situation around this game. I could totally make some 30-minute long video addressing a bunch of Doom posting, but that would require me to watch a bunch of, quite frankly, stupid videos I don't want to watch. However, I do also want to talk about the stupidest things that the Doom posters want changed, which if implemented, Endfield would genuinely be ruined and become another gacha slot game. The most important thing that the Doom posters want gone is the intricacy of the systems that make Endfield unique, aka the factory, Dijong, the depot and stock redistribution dailies, and probably a couple other things. This is all incredibly stupid, because at this point you just want another Wuthering Waves, and you want Endfield to either fall in line or fall into obscurity. These things are what make Endfield unique, and Endfield needs to push them even harder, and exactly so they can filter out players who don't want them. If you don't want to spend too much time on the factory, use blueprints, and if everything else is just too much, just quit. Some people also think that timed DPS check endgame content is better than non-timed DPS check endgame content. I have nothing else to say except genuinely shut the fuck up. Is Umbral Monument a perfect mode? Absolutely not. It needs higher difficulty, more uniqueness, and most importantly, more content. However, timed DPS check endgame content is the worst thing to fix that with. Every instance of timed DPS check endgame content in gacha gaming is just power creep, character shell, mechanic creep slop. Whether it's the Spiral Abyss MOC or the Tower of Adversity, they're all really bad. And while I would have excused them for being the standard tower modes a couple months ago, after seeing Endfield's Umbral Monuments, having a timed DPS check endgame mode is only a way to perpetuate a cycle of power creep, character shelling, and HP inflation. Give us Annihilation, Contingency Contract, and Integrated Strategies instead, which are all some of the best game modes in gacha gaming, all from Arknights. But at this point, people who advocate for timed DPS check endgame modes wouldn't know good from bad if it hit them. No matter what Endfield does at this point, it's either terrible because of some mental gymnastics, it's insanely exaggerated, or it's desperation mode. I'm not gonna hide who I'm talking about here, but I'm also not a drama channel, so I'm not gonna address anyone directly. Arknights Endfield is very obviously doing business. They are trying to see how much money they can make off of us before we say anything, and that is not a bad thing. Every single gacha company does this. You're kinda signing up for it when playing a gacha game, whether Hypergriff, Hoyoverse, or Kuro Games. Denying that is stupid, and faulting one company for doing that while completely ignoring any other is even stupider. Genshin Impact gives as little rewards as possible until players complain, and when they do, they set that as a standard. Honkai Star Rail inflates HP and power creeps until enough players stop giving them money, but as long as characters sell, they're gonna keep doing it. Wuthering Waves makes weapons as powerful as possible, chills characters in the endgame, but again, as long as it sells, they're gonna keep doing it. So Endfield is trying to tiptoe as close as they can to a line as possible to make as much money as possible without angering their player base, and I gotta say, as Endfield's QB1 Glazer, they are very close to the line right now, and if they hadn't listened as much as they did in 1.1 about everything that isn't monetization related, I would have been quite upset at this point. The main things I'm talking about is they still haven't increased the amount of Arsenal tickets you get from the weeklies because 100 is really low, and they haven't removed the expiring banner permits and replaced them with normal chartered headhunting permits. Both of these changes are incredibly important to the game's long-term health and relationship with its players, but I'm also not angry about it right now because this is a gacha company. Not only do they want continuous devs listen moments so they can get more PR, but again, they still want to tiptoe the line. They also did give us tons upon tons of quality of life and gameplay optimizations that will certainly make everyone's gameplay much smoother. Just because they didn't kneel to every single one of my demands doesn't mean the devs are bad. They even listened to the Doom posters by completely ignoring the fact that ziplines exist and are making recycling stations remotely collectible, which is bad, while also in the same breath saying you don't need to collect them. And yes, the Doom posters complaining about the dailies aren't setting up ziplines like they should be. This is one issue with Doom posters around Endfield, they don't want to actually play the game. Either way, despite the devs actually listening, they didn't listen all the way, and that is definitely deliberate. Again, they're trying to see how much they can push their players to spend money before they can receive any pushback. This is a completely natural part of any gacha game's life cycle, and trying to frame Hypergriff as this extremely stingy, worse than Hoyo company is insanely disingenuous. There are a lot of things that Endfield needs to change. However, the Doom posters that are currently hating on the game constantly aren't criticizing for the betterment of the game. They aren't giving proper feedback. They are saying things like the factory needs to go, the game's dailies are too long, the game is too tied to Arknights. They're doing all of this for a superiority complex because that exact community has always done that. I don't see any toxic positivity, but all I see is a lot of toxic negativity. But again, there are still things Endfield needs to change or add. The most important things that need to change are, of course, the Arsenal ticket stinginess and the expiring banner tickets. Players would be a lot better off if those tickets were just normal. 100 Arsenal tickets per week is also way too low. I am going to keep talking about that until they change it. A couple days ago, I would have said sanity needs to be increased, but actually what I think needs to change here is the amount of rewards we get from protocol spaces. We should be getting a bit more. Now, Tenha on Twitter got into a debacle with Endfield players when he said resources are scarce. However, that's completely incorrect. Sanity rewards are a bit low right now, but there are a lot of resources to get from all the gameplay you do in Arknights Endfield, and I don't think there's any resource scarcity. I myself got the paid battle pass, and so far I have 2 teams and nearly a max Yvonne built basically all the way, and for a 1.0 gacha with a battle pass, that is really good. I don't think anything else needs to change in terms of F2P accessibility. Aside from what I just said, we just need to make sure that we don't let Hyperglyph get away with giving us low rewards. There's a lot of speculation going around that says 1.1 is gonna have like 40 or 50 pulls or something, and I'm not gonna entertain that at all before it is confirmed, but if that is the case, I am going to complain, and everybody else will as well. We do need at least 120 pulls per patch if we're gonna have a 120 hard pity that doesn't carry over. As I've said time and time again, Hyperglyph is a company that does listen to the players, but again, they will also try to make as much money as possible. Now, aside from F2P accessibility, I do think Arknights Endfield currently needs more gameplay. After you fully set up your factory, which granted does take quite a while, and after you finish up the events, there's not really much else to do on a daily basis. You just do your daily task Insanity every day, then you do your stock build stuff on top of that once every 2 days. So I think a great daily gameplay loop they could add is a daily factory checkbox, where if your factory meets certain requirements like producing enough power, producing enough of a certain material, and trading for enough stock builds every single day, you get like 300 ore a barrel or 100 Arsenal tickets. This would continue filtering out the idiots who don't want the factory in a factory game, which is a good thing, and it would incentivize us factory lovers to make sure our factory is as fleshed out as possible. I would also like to see a lot more combat game modes. As I've said before, Umbral Monument is an incredibly good system because it doesn't have a timer, which is really good, but there's not enough content and it's way too easy. I don't want it to be so difficult you need fully maxed out essences on everyone. However, I would at least like 3 new stages every 1 or 2 weeks, because right now there's just nothing to do. I'm bored out of my mind while wanting to play more and more Arknights Endfield and make more content about the game every day. So here's what I want you to do now. I want you to go into the comments and give me as many suggestions as you can for the game so we can set up a proper list of things that Endfield needs to change and add for the game to get better. As always, glory to Hyperglyph for listening, but never settle and keep giving feedback. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and join the Express Rain Discord server for a fun and lovely community to hang out with. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.